Silverton High School parents and maybe even some students, so welcome. My name is Ed John. I'm the interim principal here at Silverton High School. Joining me is Therese Gerlitz. Therese multitasks. She's the assistant principal at the middle school and she's assistant principal at the high school.
Well, interim. I'm interim like you. I just started in January.
Okay, interim. All right, we're both interim. The only person that's not interim is James Rise. James is the athletic director and assistant principal here at the high school. He's also filling in as the interim principal at Silvercrest, K-8. So we're all kind of multitasking. Well, thanks for joining us. As you probably heard, this meeting is being recorded and it'll be posted to YouTube either probably tonight. If not, it will be by tomorrow morning. So during this time of all the things going on, we can't communicate enough. And so we wanted to share some things with you. And then we have printed off some of the questions that were submitted earlier today, and we'll try to address those. And we may have some questions from the Q&A that we'll try to get to as well. We've set aside about 45 minutes for this session. So my commitment to you is that every Tuesday I'll send out something on Parent Square, kind of an update, dates and things that are happening. And we're going to try for every Thursday at 6 o'clock. Now, no matter what day we pick, there's going to be a conflict at an elementary school or other meetings. And so we just can't find one that works for everybody, but it's better for us to pick one and be consistent with it. And people can make it great. If they can't, it's always recorded and you can check with your friends and neighbors as well. So let me kind of walk through our PowerPoint, kind of bring you up to date on some things, and then we'll get to some of the questions. So right now, we're in CDL, Comprehensive Distance Learning. And so we've been in that all year. Now, that means on, say, Tuesday and Thursday, students have periods 2 and 4, and then on Wednesday and Friday, they have periods 6 and 8. And so they have those periods where it's Google Meets, teachers are presenting information, but at the same time, there's things that are going out on Canvas or Edgenuity where there's assignments and they complete those assignments and hand them in. So we've been doing that all year. That's going to come to an end here pretty soon. Also, some students are in Fox Online, and that's more self-guided, self-paced, where there's no live Google Meets, but it's kind of taking an online class where a teacher presents some information, pushes out some information, students do the work, and then the teacher has office hours and will talk to them about, look like you got it right on this one, here's some things that you need to reinforce, that kind of thing, kind of like any online class. LIPI, limited in-person instruction. We've had that off and on depending on a number of circumstances, but that's where a couple students come in for a couple hours at a time and start with kind of special ed or alternative ed, some CTE students, and then some students that just needed to be in the building and see some other students or some adults. And then we had kind of like a study hall in the commons. And then the last week or so, we've had the computer labs open, where if a student was, especially during the time when students were just getting their power back on, if students want to come in and work in the computer lab and try to get caught up. So that's been available. So as you know, things are going to change. You know, the metrics are improving significantly to the point where the Oregon Department of Education, the governor's office, Oregon Health Authority are saying the metrics are such that students can come back into the building. So we're not ready to everyone come back all day, every day, like we had a year and a half ago or a year and a month ago. or to the point where we want to be next fall. But so we're starting slowly with the hybrid model. So the week of March 29th to April 2nd, during that week, we're going to have some orientation. So we have a committee that's working on it, the reopening committee. And our goal is to have in the morning, we'll continue with the CDL, where they have Tuesday, Thursday, and then Wednesday, Friday, where that continues. We don't want to lose any instruction time. But in the afternoons, we're going to have small groups at a time come in for some orientation. And it could be freshmen. I think we are going to have freshmen by themselves one day. But then the other days for the sophomores, juniors, and seniors, we're not sure how we're going to divide that up and how many come in at a time for some sort of orientation. But it'll be in the afternoon, so it's not taking away from the instruction that's in the morning. So the week of March 29th to April 2nd, that week is CDL in the morning, some orientation in the afternoon. And then April 5th is when we come back to hybrid. I say come back to hybrid, we really haven't been in it, but where we come to hybrid, and that'll be in cohorts. So cohort A is students alphabet A to K. Cohort B is students alphabet Z to L. Cohort A is Tuesdays and Thursdays, and cohort B is Wednesday and Friday. Now, the days that they aren't in the building for those classes, the teachers will still be pushing out some material. So they might say, okay, cohort A, you folks are here Tuesday, Thursday. So maybe Wednesday, they'll send out something. Hey, here's an article I want to read about US history, and we're going to talk about it when you're in class on Thursday. So there'll be some assignments that come out. It could be Ingenuity, it could be Canvas, but every day, Monday through Friday, there'll be some instruction, whether it's when they're there in person, or the off days where they'll be getting it online. So it's not online like the Google Meets, but they'll be receiving some things sent to their Canvas or Ingenuity. And students are pretty comfortable with how that works. So when we start to have those days, starting April 5th, we're going to have 4 periods. So it'll be, this quarters 1 and 3, it was periods 1, 3, 5, and 7. Now starting last week, it's periods 2, 4, 6, and 8. So starting April 5th, they'll have 2, 4, 6 in the building. So at about 7:55, I think is the first period, 85-minute period, kind of a 10-minute passing time, and then another period, 85 minutes passing time, and then 6th period. And then at the end of that 6th period, they'll pick up their grab-and-go lunch and head out the door, either be picked up or drive home or ride the bus. And then 8th period is online. So they have 3 in the building, live teacher, and 1 that's going to be online. So it's going to be a little bit different, but at least it gets them in the building some. We're hoping that this goes really smoothly, and we believe it will because we've been planning with our reopening team extensively. And so that next fall, when we're back in real school every day, all day, hopefully, everyone's comfortable with that. They're back familiar with what real school looks like. So, our reopening team meets and they look at the metrics. They look at guidance from the Department of Education. They look at guidance from the governor's office. They look at guidance from the Oregon Health Authority. They look at guidance from our nurses, our nursing staff, and what doors do students enter, where are the hand sanitizing stations. Somebody's there kind of checking them. We're not giving them a COVID test or anything, but somebody checking how you doing, making eye contact, doing good. And then they sanitize their hands, make sure they have a mask on, and they're headed to their class. And so we're working very hard to make sure everything is safe for our students. And so that's why the nurses are involved in this whole process. if you get a chance to come by the school and look around, the halls have blue tape on the floors where most of the hallways are one way. And there's lines every 6 feet so that students know, we're not walking down the hall side by side. We're really focusing on social distancing and keeping our masks on. That's the one requirement, is that everyone has to have a mask. It's above their nose and below their chin. So student safety is our biggest priority. And then,
And can I add a quick detail too? Sorry, I guess I moved ahead on the slide. The update of that brown bag meal that students would take home on their live day actually contains multiple meals in it. So like a breakfast for the next day, and I believe even a lunch for the next day. So if your student hasn't really been a big backpack wearer before, it'd be really important for them to be thinking about having that backpack so they can carry like their Chromebook and the meal and the other supplies that they need, because they will also not have access to lockers when they're on site.
Thanks, Teresa. It's really important to have a backpack. And then if a student comes in the morning for breakfast, they can actually grab a breakfast, sit in the commons. Somebody's going to be there supervising, and then they dump their trash and head up to their second period class. So we want to provide the lunches, and we want to provide opportunity for students to have their breakfast in the morning if they want to, and then they take their lunch with them. They can't eat lunch in the commons because we want students to be on their way home, or on the bus, or if they're walking or riding. But so it gives our custodial staff plenty of time to do some pretty serious sanitation, cleaning after students leave the building. Teresa, should I jump into questions, or did we hit?
We've got some dates here. Just want to make sure that
Okay,
everybody
yeah.
had a chance to take a look at this.
Right, so we've had limited amount of LIPI, but it ends March 12th. And then March 15th, staff comes back. And so we're giving them a little bit of time to be in the room, even though that week of March 15th, 15, 16, 17, 19, just up to spring vacation, they'll still do the CDL in the morning. In the afternoon, we want to give them some time to make sure their room is ready for students. We can't have more than about 12 or 14, 15 in a classroom at a time. So they have to make sure they have the right number of desks, and the counselors are working hard to make sure those class sizes are balanced. And some classrooms can accommodate more, some can't accommodate as much. And so we're working with those teachers and those schedules. But going to need to give the teachers some time to get organized and make sure if they have any personal items that they've taken those home, like, we don't have the soft couch sitting there like maybe we had before. We want to make it such that we can clean it at the end of the day and make it safe for our students. So again, that March 29th, end of the CDL, April 5th, first day back in person, but the few days before the April 5th, there'll be time for orientation. So some of the questions that came in, one was about freshman orientation, and I think I've talked about that there will be a day for them. One question was about the ice storm cancellations. Any change in the school calendar? Well, that's a great question. The superintendent is working with the board and with the district leadership on that very issue. I do know that spring vacation will not be impacted. And I do know that graduation will not be impacted. That's still June 10th. But the present calendar we look at, it looks like June 18th is a Friday, and that would be the normal last day of school. The June 21st would be like a grading day, and then teachers are done. So there's still discussion of would students come back for a day or two or three at the end? I don't know. Would teachers come back for a day or two or three at the end for staff development? I don't know. So that part is still being negotiated. So don't have an answer on that one, but there's pros and cons to every side of that issue. And so the superintendent and the board and the district leadership, as well as the association, is looking at all the options and what's best for kids. So that's a long story to say, I don't know the answer on that one. What will the school day look like? You know, it's pretty much like 7:55 until 12:30. Trace, I've got that right?
And we're still saying approximately because we have to wait for confirmation for those bus routes from our transportation department. So we would like to do our 7:55 to 12:30, but again, just waiting for confirmation there.
So any athletic questions we'll save, and James, we'll get James back on the horn here in a few minutes, but there's a couple about athletics. But one kind of related to athletics is parent attendance at sporting events outside. I was at a soccer game Tuesday, and James made the announcement over the intercom, said not our rules, but OSA said no fans at athletic events. So there were 2 fans that James had to ask to leave and go outside the fence. I think they kind of stood over by the railroad tracks to watch the soccer game. So, you know, if I was a parent, I'd love to see my son or daughter play, but that's the OSA rule, and we can't just say, sorry, we're not going to abide by that, because we think parents want to be able to see their kids and we want to support them. So short answer is, at this point, no fans.
Hey, Ed, can I break in for just a moment?
Sure.
So what he's answering right now is some questions that were submitted ahead of time in response to Ed's Parent Square. I've heard from somebody in the Q&A part that they weren't able to submit a question ahead of time. So if you do want to use that Q&A feature now to type in a question, we'll do our best to get to all of the questions. Sometimes we're not able to, just because of time, or because we need to just follow up personally to find out what exactly the person is talking about, so we can make sure that we're giving the right answer. So if we don't answer yours tonight, make sure you know that we are printing out that transcript so we can make sure and touch bases with you again tomorrow.
Yeah, thanks, Trace. Appreciate that. One question was, any idea on what school looks like this fall? Don't know for sure. You know, I guess it feels like the metrics is getting so much better. Restaurants are opening, and that we get through this spring and even summer, that next fall would be, let's get back to real school. Students are in school all day, every day. But, you know, I guess I would not be surprised if they say, well, let's hang on to a couple safety things. One is maybe students continue to wear masks. I don't know. Maybe students ought to stay in cohorts. I don't know. So don't know the answer to that one. But it's one of those things. What do we want to do? What's best for the safety of our kids and families? And so someone else will be making that decision. So I don't know, but I'm optimistic that it's going to be better than what we have right now.
Ed, while you're going through that list, James, can you hear us at the moment?
Yes, I can.
Okay, there is a question in the chat that maybe you can field while Ed's double checking his list from somebody, and they're asking about, will our sports events be aired via the internet?
Yep, absolutely. Would love to take that. So actually, before all of COVID, early 2020, we were in a position to where we could install Pixelot camera systems at both of our football, soccer stadium and inside of our gym. So all of our events that are either on the turf or in the gym. So in the gym would be volleyball, wrestling, basketball. Out here at the turf, obviously, is football, soccer. We'll hope to stream a cross-country event as well. All of our events in those venues will be streamed live. Currently, our JV boys soccer game is being streamed right now. And our athletic department has actually purchased and paid for the rights to allow all of our home events to be viewed at no charge. So all of our events that are streamed on our home venues are free for the public to watch. For those of you that would like to watch events at other schools, you would have to pay for those. For a month subscription is $10.99. And again, that would just be for those away events. But for the entire year this year, our home events are free. And that is through the NFHS network. And if you don't want to write that down, I would encourage you just to go to our athletics website, which is silvertonfoxes.com. And there's a tab at the top that says more. And under that, it shows live stream. And you click on live stream and it takes you directly to the site with all of our games. So for example, tonight live streaming, we have JV boys and girls soccer, both live and free tonight. And then also we have varsity boys and girls soccer tonight, live and free. And so our JV game is about midway through the second half. And then our varsity games will start about 7:15 or so. So we'll be streaming volleyball starting next week and football as well when they're home next week. So thanks,
James.
Yep.
So let me tackle the toughest question, and Therese can help me if I don't have it thoroughly answered, and then we'll dig into some of the questions. So a question that I get quite a bit is, okay, you're coming back April 5th, and for whatever reason, extenuating circumstances, health reasons, anxiety, whatever reason, my daughter, my son just doesn't feel like they can come back. What are our options? Well, like if a regular school year, the real option is school. But at the same time, any of the counselors that you're seeing on your screen, Barnabas, Christy, Stacy, and Kevin, they would be glad to work with an individual family and say, okay, I understand that, respect that. Let's look at what the options are. And I really don't have a menu of what those are, but there are a number of things. Some of them, maybe there's some space in Fox Online. I don't think a lot. Maybe there's some space in Grad Alliance. I don't know how much. Some students have taken BYU classes. Others have taken some things like a
and then I can hop in here too. We're kind of leaving it as a simple response that if you have questions about the schedule, to please just contact your counselor, because the answer truly is different for each student based on how far into their high school career they are, what classes they're taking. And so there isn't going to be a blanket answer for any students. And so that's why we're saying by March 22nd, please contact your counselor if you have other questions about a schedule.
And the bottom line is we cannot offer CDL simultaneously as we're teaching hybrid. So we don't have that option, but the counselors will be glad to meet with people and see what we can work out. So Therese, were there some questions in the Q&A that we might be able to tackle?
Sure, yeah. So one of them was about the classrooms and what those look like. And so it can answer a little bit about, this one was specifically about the desks. And the desks have all, or will all be, there's a lot of classrooms that's not all finished yet, but they are all going to be spaced out so that students have 6 feet of space on all sides of them. They're also looking at things like traffic patterns in those classrooms so that as students are entering, if a student has already sat at a desk, do they still have space when other students are getting to their desk? They're discussing things like how those, hand sanitizer when you're walking into the classroom. And they're even looking at how things like, gosh, I need to throw this piece of paper away because I am not using it anymore. And we have processes where stuff like that's going to just be put on the floor underneath the student's chair, rather than having students getting up all the time and going and throwing something away or whatnot. So they're really looking to at those classroom processes to reduce the amount of movement in the room. But it is definitely spaced out. And to do that, every building or every room in the building has also been measured so that we can adhere to the square footage guidelines for students. And with that, we also take a look at the enrollment of the different courses. And so making sure that the number of students that are enrolled in cohort A in, say, biology with, Mrs. Stolfus, making sure that none of those classes are overfilled so that they're not going to be able to fit those capacities in the classroom. So that is a lot more details than that question that person asked in their question. It was more just about desks, but I thought I'd throw a couple of extra pieces out there as well.
Thanks.
Another question was, how do you sign up for transportation? And I believe that Ed had written on his list to work on making sure that we have a way of reaching out to make sure that all families can give us that information if they're going to need that bus ride, so we can make sure that we have complete lists for the bus barn. And if you'd like to be proactive and give the office a call to let them know that your student or students are going to be needing those bus services and what address from, that would certainly make our job easier. So we'd appreciate that.
And I think the office staff was going to send out a survey so that we know exactly what parents are requesting transportation and which ones aren't. The bus barn said that they need to know those so that they can develop a route so that they know, okay, we can leave school students out at 12:30, leave at 12:45, and we can get them delivered to Silvercrest or Victor Point or wherever, so that they're there by, I was going to say, is it 2 o'clock when 8th period starts? Do I have that time right, Therese? I think so.
Sorry, I was looking at a question, so I was writing something down. Could you repeat what you were asking?
So they need to get delivered to their home so they can start their 8th period class, which I believe starts at 2 o'clock.
Yeah, correct. So they would, as soon as they're done at 12:30, they're going to grab those meals in a bag if they need that, but they're going to head home. But that gives them enough time to travel, enough time to eat, and then log into that virtual elective class in the afternoon. Yep.
Thank you.
All right. Another question is, and Ed addressed this a little bit, or already the question is, will school be going further into the summer this year? And that is a decision that the school board and the superintendent and district office staff and the association are deciding, but that will be voted on at a school board meeting. And then another question, and I can definitely answer this, why the middle schools can offer both CDL and hybrid, but not the high school. And I had that conversation with a parent today. And there's a variety of reasons, but one of the main ones is that kindergarten through 8th graders don't have like permanent transcripts that are leading towards a diploma. And so the grades and whatnot that they get on their classes and are just telling you progress about how they're doing. In high school, the grades that they get on those transcripts are the result of teachers that are licensed in a very specific area and are giving credits that are part of a super rigorous accreditation process. So for example, there's lots of different school options across the country, but only ones that are accredited can actually offer a legal diploma. Everybody else, they can call it a diploma, but it's not actually a legal completion of high school. And so, so with that, we have to be able to offer those specific teachers to teach those specific subjects, where in K through 8, you can have a teacher that could teach multiple subjects. And that's okay because they're not awarding those specific classes that have gone through that rigorous approval process for that legal diploma. And so, so if we were example to offer that third school option, so that Fox Online, the CDL, and then the hybrid, it would take a math teacher and an English teacher and a science teacher. It would take from all of those areas. And if we were serving, say, for example, 30 CDL students, we've now impacted hundreds of other students that cannot then take classes from those teachers in the hybrid model. So there's just a different set of rules that high schools have to play by or operate by to be able to award and provide that education that's recognized by the state and by colleges and universities and apprenticeships and so on. So that's why we are not able to offer all three of those programs.
Thanks, Trace. That's a very thorough explanation. But yeah, exactly right. They have to have the right endorsement, and especially with kind of a condensed schedule, they have to have the time to go deep into the curriculum and be able to say to the colleges, they've met the criteria for a credit in this particular course. So the complexity of a high school schedule makes it difficult to try to do two things at the same time.
Absolutely. Another question is, when will zero period classes happen? And for families who aren't familiar with zero period classes, I'm sorry, I'm having problems saying zero period tonight. Zero period is also sometimes called early bird. And those are students that are typically in a specialized program such as band or choir, and there's just not quite enough room in their schedules because of other courses that they need to take. And so we're able to offer a zero period where they come prior to regular first period, so extra early in the morning, and they can still take that course. And so some of those zero period classes, there's about 10 different department offerings right now. Some of them are support classes, such as some special education support. And in addition to like band and choir, where zero period in CDL, or this comprehensive distance learning, hasn't really meant much aside from a way of tracking to make sure that a student is getting credit for a class, because right now everything's been virtual, so you can kind of schedule that for whenever. Obviously, when we roll back out of CDL and into hybrid, zero period class means something a little bit different. And what I can say is that the answer for those zero period classes is going to be different based on the 10 different departments and the work that they need to get done and the type of services or activities that are being offered during that zero period. So I'd encourage this asker, if you're a student, or if you are a student, sorry, I'm not as familiar with all of the names. If you have a question about a specific zero period, please don't hesitate to contact the counselor or the teacher of that zero period to get that answer.
Thank you.
Okay, sorry, I'm scrolling through here. And then I know that there was a couple of, there was a question here about some COVID piece, and I think that one of our school nurses was going to hop on and answer some of that. Maddie, do you know, is she able to?
I'm looking for her now.
Okay. Quick look here.
I don't see her.
Okay, so one of the questions I can answer in a limited fashion is about COVID testing at schools, and is that the same version that is the free version that is offered by the state, and that would be. There's a question about circulation and ventilation in the buildings, and that has been done. I think every single office and classroom and space has been, and the spreadsheet of those assessments and what is needed or not needed it's pretty extensive, and I so appreciate how thorough it is and the detail of that. As far as people have questions about specific buildings, feel free to give call Ed, and
Yeah,
you can talk to him
and
about the
the high
ventilation
school,
for.
being the newest building in the district, has a better than standard ventilation system. And so we're feeling very confident about that. Many classes have windows, and teachers have the option of having those windows open if they like, especially as we get to spring. So we're feeling pretty confident about ventilation.
Another question about schedule and that timing of hybrid and options for students. And so again, we have, we're CDL, we've been CDL, which was originally hybrid, and then we didn't meet the metrics. So we rolled into CDL, and now we do meet the metrics. So we're rolling back into hybrid. And if you have questions about that schedule for your student, then please contact their counselor and make sure to do that before March 22nd. Another question, are the hybrid classes that are in person being recorded to watch if the student is absent? And what I can say is at this point, there is not a plan to record every class and lesson. And part of that, I can tell you as somebody who has attended meetings virtually, where it was some of the participants were adults, first of all, and number two, it was a carpeted room, and three, using our existing equipment. I was catching maybe 60% of what was going on, and that was, I could mostly catch the conversation of the person that was right next to the computer, or the sound system, but as people aren't moving around, anytime somebody asked a question or participated in the conversation, I couldn't hear that. So we know that without investing thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars for just the last few months of school, hopefully here, that it's not feasible to be able to record all of that every time for every student. And so if a student isn't able to make it to that class, we would encourage them to do the exact same thing they would do during a regular school year. They would connect with that teacher and get copies of their notes or from a classmate, and work on making that work up that way.
Thank you.
Okay. How soon can a student be dropped off in the morning? I don't know if the reopening team has established that time yet, but I believe that the building will not be open for student drop off before 7:30, but I could be, please don't quote me on that, because they're, the reopening team is still working on some of those logistics, unless Ed, you know something.
I think that's it right now. They're still looking at all the pros and cons. I know some people drop off their students on their way to work, and it was been nice in times past when they could just hang out in the library or in the commons. But we're wanting to ensure that when students are on campus, that they're social distance and they have their mask on and all those things. And we can't do that until we have staff in place to kind of monitor and supervise that. And so at this point, we're saying 7:30, and I think the first class starts at 7:50 or 7:55. So there's a period where they'll be able to come in, have their breakfast if they want, make their way to their class and get situated. But there's not going to be time to kind of hang out in the hallway, hang out in the library, hang out in the commons like we really enjoy. Students like that social time. They've been anxious to get back and see their friends. So we're trying to keep it pretty structured so that we can ensure that students are staying safe.
Thank you. There is a question about students having some breaks, so going to school in the morning and then having that break and then having that virtual class in the afternoon. Let me just double check that I'm reading this right. Okay, so the concern is about attending those classes in the morning, having that break, and then having that student re-engage. So any suggestions or plans on how to re-engage students after that break? And I can say that that we've been in the afternoons been offering teacher office hours, and that virtual afternoon session is the same one that they're enrolled in now. So they're doing that work now already. So they're logging into their live classes, periods 2, 4, and 6. They're taking that break, and then they're logging into that same class in the afternoon. And so I think maybe I might be missing some of the nuances there. So could ask that person to, if you have a specific concern about your student is struggling now, not in that they're attending live virtual meets in the morning and then having that break and they're not able to make that afternoon session, then I'd encourage you to connect with their counselor or that afternoon class that they're in right now and talk with that teacher.
And I think we try to schedule the electives for that 8th period. So it's not like it's a algebra 2 or a chemistry class. But yeah, we've been struggling all year with engagement. We want kids to be in the meeting. We want them to be involved. We want them to do the work. And second quarter was better than first quarter. But we just need to make the best of this year, get through it, and kids earn some credits. And hopefully we're back to the real normal by the fall. And this, I think April 5th is going to help us feel a little bit like it's closer to normal, but we're not there yet. But we're surviving a pandemic, and it's been hard on kids for sure. It's, kids are social. They don't like the isolation. It's been hard on parents, I know. And so we're going to get through this together. We're in it together, and we'll get through it together.
Yep. Okay, and we're about 2 minutes away from our ending time here, and I have at least 15 more questions here, so I'm sorry we're not going to be able to get to all of them. So
why don't we pick off one, and then maybe for my Parent Square on Tuesday, maybe I could address those. I'd like to get a response to you as soon as I can, but at least by Tuesday, we'll have Parent Square, give more information, and then we'll have these meetings every Thursday for at least a near future. So got one more there, Teresa. It's kind of a...
Sure. I'll just take the one off the top here. So it's about the movement of the timeline, and when the district office had taken a look at that and prepared that reopening plan for the different grade level bands, we had some pretty strong information about the metrics in our counties, and made a bet, and a best guess date was selected for the rollout for each of those grade bands. And then all of a sudden those metrics dropped much quicker than I think a lot of people anticipated. And that's the beauty of numbers, I guess, is that sometimes they can surprise you. And so I know that they felt strongly about, with those being in compliance, about being able to roll that forward. So
and I know there was some communication out there months ago about April 29th, fourth quarter would be the time when we would go to hybrid if we were within the metrics. Well, maybe the wording should have been, we'll go when the metrics allow us to, but the reality is some things changed, metrics changed, and there's some compelling reasons for us to get the kids back to something close to normal school as early as possible. We feel that the April 5th is that time. And so, sure, there was some confusion over a date, but the reality is things have changed, and we feel that we're got things in place, things are organized, we're all about safety for our students, and other districts around the area are coming back to hybrid. We feel it's the right thing to do, and so we're going to make it work. And I appreciate your understanding, and it's one of those things where not everybody is in agreement, but we didn't make these things up off top of our head. It's the district office and the school board and our staff and our administrative team and our counselors and our reopening committee have spent days and hours on how can we roll this out to make it work for our kids and make sure it's safe. So that's kind of where we are, and appreciate your understanding and flexibility as we move forward. So.
Yep. And then super quick, I just wanted to, since I know that she was trying to come in to answer real quick about the testing. Was Sue Ellen able to get on there, Maddie?
Yep, she's here.
Okay. So Sue Ellen is one of our nurses in the school district, and there were some questions about on-site testing for students. So could you give us just a quick overview, because I see that we're in our last 30 seconds here of.
Oh, thank you for 30 seconds.
I know, Sue Ellen, I'm sorry. I'll give you 60 since you joined us.
So the on-site testing will be only for staff and students that come to school and they become sick at school. We don't want people that are sick coming to school. No one that's been sick and coming into the building that's not an idea that we want to go with. So it's just a matter of if someone's sick, it's there, it's available. If your student is tested for COVID at school, even if they're negative, we're going to be encouraging you to stay home until they get better. The big thing that's going to change this year would be that we really, really want anybody who is sick, anybody that has sick people at home, the more we can really pay attention to that and keep our kids and our families and our staff home when they're sick, we're going to have a better outcome. And so far, we've been following up with anybody that's been sick and basically thanking them. And that is where we are with things. I do, with the testing, it is free. It is not very accurate. It's only 60% accurate, but that does give us a positive result. If it is positive, I'm probably causing more confusion than helping. But the nurses will talk to you about it if that comes to a situation where your student needs to have that happen.
Okay. Thanks, Sue Ellen.
Thank you, Sue Ellen, very much. I appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, folks, thanks for being with us. And we'll continue to address questions as we get information and we can get a chance to respond. So thanks for joining us, and we will stay in touch. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. We'll see you next week.
Thank you.